Blog Talk Radio.
Fans, here we go with the main event of the evening. Ladies and gentlemen in attendance, moms and dads joining us around the world. It's time for the bout you've all been waiting for. Finally, it is showtime.
Here, man, we dedicate our life to this sport. We do thousands of sit-ups in camp. We run hundreds of miles, for the ones that take it serious. And we just dedicate ourselves fully to our craft, man. We watch tape. We have attitude. We're rooting, and we go into that fight and to lay it on the line.
Hey, what up, basketball fans? The NBA playoff banter returns. The podcast, I should say. I am Chris, he's Marshall, and we're here to discuss everything involving the NBA Finals. Yes, finally, the Finals are here. They start Thursday, so we got a couple of days. We figured we'd give you a couple of days to try to listen to the podcast before the action starts. It's hard not to feel like a lot of fans out there, and when that Houston and Golden State, game, the series, I should say, was done, it's hard not to think, all right, well, that was the finals. Let's just hope for some fun basketball to watch. And I'm just being honest. It is one of those things. A lot of people just assume, well, what game is it going to be? A sweep? Is it going to be Game 5? Is it going to be Game 6? Will they go, Game 7? It's really about not who's going to win, Toronto or Golden State, but when. But when for Golden State. And let's just be honest. That's what a lot of people think. I haven't checked the spreads lately, but I do remember seeing a couple of days ago on Sunday, I believe Toronto was favored in Game 1. Now, there are a variety of things we're going to break. We're going to preview and predict it, obviously. A couple of items that we're going to talk about. What game? That's the prediction. What game will it end? Also, Toronto has the home court. They're going to have to win one of those first two games. No Kevin Durant for Game 1. Will him coming back potentially Game 2 or Game 3, or even the return of Boogie Cousins, potentially, will that mess up Golden State's flow? And obviously, it does help that Toronto has the home court. This would not be the time for Toronto to lose Game 1 of a series at home. We're gonna have a Drake segment too. Just kidding, of course. That was pretty fun to see. Speaking of Drake, that was pretty fun to see all those people in Toronto out in the streets, and they were really peaceful. That shit doesn't happen here. We will start the show just barely talking about the Eastern Conference. How in the hell did Milwaukee lose 4 straight? We'll talk about last Saturday's Game 6 sweep. There's a variety of things we're going to talk about, okay? So if this is your first time listening to the NBA Playoff Banter podcast, it streams live right here on blogtalkradio.com/Rope-It-Over-Radio, okay? So the Playoff Banter podcast, the podcast you're listening to now, streams live and archives right here on blogtalkradio.com, Rope-It-Over-Radio. Now, Rope-It-Over-Radio can be found not just here on Blog Talk. You can check it out on iTunes, Player FM, Stitcher, Spreaker, all across the board. We're also a member of the Grueling Truth Sports Podcast Network, and that can be subscribed on iTunes and Spreaker and Stitcher. You can also stream it on Spotify and iHeartRadio. You can use your home Siri or Alexa to use TuneIn or Spotify to check out the NBA Playoff Banter, whether it's on Rope-It-Over Radio or the Grueling Truth Sports Podcast Network. In fact, why don't you head on over to the gruelingtruth.net, and you can actually listen to the podcast right at the gruelingtruth.net as well. You can read articles. You got basketball, football, baseball, boxing, all sorts of different items there. And they got a great sponsor over there to link it right to mybookie.ag. And real quick, before we get into this playoff banter podcast, if you're thinking about cutting the cord or you already have, you should check out DirecTV Now. Maybe you have and you're not quite happy. They have a 7-day free trial, does DirecTV Now, the standalone streaming service. You can stream it anywhere on your smart TV, your smartphone, your tablet. You have the cloud DVR, and the plans start as low as $50 a month. And the Plus and Max packages actually include HBO. Remember, $50 a month. Now, here's a limited time offer that's almost running out. If you prepay 4 months, right? Prepay 4 months of DirecTV Now. DirecTV Now will throw in an Apple TV 4K 5th generation. Maybe you have a 4th generation. It's old. You can get the 5th generation. Maybe you have an old Roku. A limited time offer. Remember, the Apple TV 4K on the open market, retail price $179. So you're paying $200 and you're getting 4 months of cable as well. And for boxing fans, by the way, 11 months for Showtime. Or 11 months, $11, $11 for Showtime as well. So check out DirecTV Now. I'm going to go ahead and bring in my co-host and check his temperature before we dive deep into this stuff. What's going on, Marshall? How the hell are you? I know you got a calendar out. You're counting down, not the days, but you're counting down the hours even.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. The school year is almost over. They did make it a rule in Texas now, though, where you can actually coach your kids for 2 hours every week in the summer. So the coaching isn't really over. Just the school life will be over this summer. And there's a couple of trips back home and then making a Vegas trip. So mainly not setting an alarm is the main goal I look to achieve this summer, and try to take a few strokes off the handicap, which is tough to do when you play 2 months a year, but whatever. Oh, well. I'm good, man.
Yeah. You got to be feeling good, man. You got to be feeling good.
I've actually had this was like an easy, peaceful year of teaching. I got blessed with like great kids, so I'm hoping that happens again next year. I mean, I barely got stressed out this year, so I had more drama coaching than teaching, and I'm hoping that repeats itself.
Go figure.
And I am a basketball coach. I wish I had some Golden State Warriors type talent. I don't quite get that, but this is another year of a podcast final show where the Golden State Warriors are involved in it again. If you're new to the podcast, I'm not a bandwagon fan. I fell in love with the Warriors in 2008 when they had the Baron Davis upset versus the Mavericks, and I'm pretty much after that, they're pretty much down the dumps for quite a while there. But they've always, I was always kind of impressed because they're a team that had a fan base that would come to all their games pretty much all the time, and they'd be like the second worst team in the West. So been a fan of Golden State for a long time.
And now they're abandoning them. Just kidding.
Which that pisses me off too, because I mean that talk about and I get the money, and you got to go to the bigger cities now, but it sucks to talk about a loyal ass fan base. Not many teams in the country get good attendance when their records don't show it. But again, another year we're breaking them down.
I can attest to that, being a Timberwolves fan. And all of a sudden, there's $7 tickets and shit during the week, in the winter.
Yeah. But, another year of talking about him, except this year we don't have to face LeBron. So that's a little encouraging. Now, next year maybe we're back on that path. But for now, Golden State advances again, and they're playing a team from the East who does not have LeBron on it, but they do have a player who you could say is playing LeBron-esque kind of ways. And a round of applause to Kyrie. I almost said Kyrie Irving.
How you gonna do that, dude?
I don't.
It's a
dookie
that
too. Is a slip.
That's
trust
a
me,
big
that was
slip.
a mess.
Kyrie.
I need
we don't like Kyrie in general, but really, like a Dookie? You're gonna bring up a Dookie? What the hell?
I might
It is
need
late.
to go.
It is late.
I might need to go pour myself a shot. We'll do a little boozing on the show. That was embarrassing. Holy shit! All right, a tip of the cap to Kawhi Leonard, a man from San Diego State, because when just kind of some of the Eastern Conference, a lot of people going into the Eastern Conference playoffs. Oh, who's the best guy in the East? Jimmy Butler, Joel Embiid, Kyrie Irving, whoever, Giannis Antetokounmpo. But I mean, it was an easy answer of Kawhi Leonard. I mean, you said you wanted to kind of break down the last series. It was Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, how the hell
being
did
the
they
man
lose
on
4 straight? I mean, the last time we talked, and I'm going to let you go on. The last time we talked, it was 2-1, and we really felt confident Milwaukee had just had an off shooting night. It was not going to be a big deal. They were going to hit down the open jumpers, and then 4 straight games to close it out. What in the hell happened to that squad? They just fell apart.
And Chris, that's a team. They didn't lose 3 games in a row all year. 3. And then you lose 4.
I didn't know that stat. Wow.
Yeah. Talk about just like, holy shit, wow. I mean, I don't know. That was, again, game 3 was like such a boxing match. You could say back and forth. Kawhi had so many chances to win regulation, overtime. He almost gets another walk-off shot, but they get it done. It's like, all right, well, Toronto's alive now. But we had both kind of thought Milwaukee would come back game 4 and take control, and it didn't happen. I think obviously Kawhi offensively was masterful, and the adjustments that Toronto made defensively made Milwaukee's life like a miserable hell on offense. We talked about how Milwaukee had done such a great job of passing the ball around and scoring offensively, and kind of letting the Greek Freak, which is much easier to say than his real name, kind of dictate the flow of the offense. And it just kind of went away. You felt that, granted, Toronto's offense at times isn't always flashy, but Milwaukee's offense, it just kind of disappeared. There was no flow of the game. It was kind of in a, we're going to lock down defense mode, and we're going to do the same thing against you. Except, I've given Milwaukee credit all year for having great defense. Toronto out-defense the best defensive team in the league. And at times when they needed it, pretty much Kawhi Leonard did his thing. There was moments where obviously Lowry helped. At moments Ibaka and Gasol helped Siakam. But, that was pretty much a defensive masterpiece by Toronto, and a Kawhi Leonard show that, again, you kind of didn't think about the guy this year. Last year was a mess in San Antonio. He goes up to Toronto, where people probably frickin' care more about Drake than do him. And ESPN doesn't show many Raptors games. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, shit, I kind of forgot that Kawhi Leonard, when healthy, is like a top 4 player in the league. And his offensive game is – it's like, dude, he can go down low because he's strong with his post moves, even though he's not a big guy. He hits clutch threes.
And that's kind of where he started, too, in San Antonio. That's kind of where they started him, like kind of that high post, elbow area, and just let him work,
Yeah, and he never seems out of control. I don't see any turnovers. And the dude put on a show. It was. When they needed a clutch, because there was, just right now in my head, I remember there was about 4 or 5 moments each game where it's like Toronto needed a clutch 3, and boom, Kawhi hit it. Or Toronto was down 7, Kawhi got them going on a run. Or they're up 3, they needed. That dude was pretty much lights frickin' out. And the way he won the last series, it's like, dude, what more can you expect from him? And he didn't have a walk-off shot, but man, did he just put on a show, Chris? And again, so I'll give you this layup back to break down your thoughts. But hadn't lost 3 games, or they lose 4, and the best defense in the league, basically statistically, got out defensed. So props to Nick Nurse, a guy who not many people knew about. Budenholzer for Milwaukee's phenomenal coach, but Toronto's coach made some adjustments, man, and they spun off a great run, and now they got to advance, and I'm so happy for those fans. Those fans dedicated themselves to lots of basketball, lots of heartbreak. So cool for them, which is obviously a huge hockey city, to get to enjoy some basketball finals instead of, Maple Leafs Cup and shit. That hasn't happened for a long time either.
Yeah, and you're right, man. I'm happy for Toronto. I'm happy for Kawhi a lot. We were just saying off air, like, so what's up with is Kawhi like a little baby now? Was he, what are the Spurs thinking right now? Like, maybe you should have just let him be hurt since you misdiagnosed him anyway, and he was being careful. And it's not like he had a track record of slacking or something, or a guy that was always hurt and never would play or something like that, or I don't know. I never liked how they dealt with that. Tony Parker as well. But, the load management was really big. I think he played 66 games this year. That was really huge. And I just love the way there's times where you're like, dude, you got to do something. You got to do something. You got yourself a good shot. He's kind of he's moving fast, but he's moving slow. You know what I mean? Like, he's setting it up, getting position, maybe backing someone down, just finding his spots on the court, and he's going to take his time doing it. And he's going to make the right read. And this is not a let's dump on Giannis. I remember a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, Giannis underperformed in the playoffs. Last year, his numbers were better, coming off a phenomenal season. This year, this guy had a phenomenal season, and for the most part, his numbers were there. That but he did have some issues shooting, and obviously free throws. But just real quick, Game 5, Toronto trailed 14 in the first, like right off the bat. They ended up winning that game. Then Game 6 last Saturday, down 15 in the third quarter, and they make a run back. And, you got to close those games out. And it's really funny. And just it was 78-78 with a little over 10 minutes left after a 17-2 run, just in a 3:53 mark. So, I mean, it all of a sudden happened. And the last two games, actually the last four games, Giannis from the free throw line was just garbage. I know that's not a big strength of his, and, it is what it is, but, man, that really let him down, no doubt about it. And when you look at some of these games, maybe he had his shooting going, maybe he didn't. That game, I think it was Game 3, he had that 12 points. No, it happens. Shot pretty damn well the next two games, but he just, he had good games, but he didn't completely fill up the stat sheet, like we're used to him doing. And then his teammates, and I don't want to make it all about Giannis, because Bledsoe was like 2 of 17. Like, his teammates, in the last game stood up to an extent, but Bledsoe and Middleton played pretty good, but Brogdon, George Hill, like, they didn't stand up either, high enough anyway. And it really came down to, you had two studs in a variety of role players. And Lowry, we got to give him credit the last couple of games, no doubt about it. Van Fleet coming off the bench, giving minutes. Siakam, like, they had, when I remember breaking down Gasol and Green and Ibaka, I remember breaking down some of these names, and we thought, man, they do have a lot of guys with a lot of playoff experience. And what a difference it makes adding just a couple minor pieces, and then obviously the big swap that they did, bringing in, like you said, a top 4 player in the league. It was interesting, man. I definitely didn't think that they'd sweep the rest of the games. And now we're not going to break it down too much, but when you look at the uncertainty in the offseason for Milwaukee, Brogdon and Middleton you're gonna have to put some money out. You have Maričić, George Hill, cap casualties probably. Can they afford Brook Lopez? They have a lot of space, but do you want to use it all up in one month? On one off season. So they're really going to have to figure out. They have some decisions to make, no doubt about it. But anything else that you'd like to add, or maybe counterpoint something that I just brought up? Like I said, I definitely didn't want to just shit on Giannis. You got to go after him a little bit minorly, especially. It just didn't seem like he had that same. I'm gonna all-purpose everything, and then and then the free throws was a big deal, man. It hurt him in a tight game, giving up leads. If you look at games 3 to 6, his free throws was atrocious.
Yeah, and I mean, part of that just comes with experience. I saw an ESPN article saying he wants all of his boys back for next year. Like, he kind of wants to rebuild with this team. And the Vegas odds today said that Kawhi is minus 200 to go to the Clippers next year, and everyone else is plus money. So I mean, if Kawhi leaves again and maybe Jimmy Butler leaves, you're back to being the best team in the East again, hypothetically speaking. So I mean, you can't blame that man for wanting to bring all of his boys back. And again, same with the Warriors and pretty much any other NBA team that's had good runs. You normally have to get beat a couple times before you get hot. There's very few teams or superstars where you go and win a title the first year you're relevant. That almost never happens. Even Jordan and pretty much every NBA guy you've known has had to go through some growing pains of some sort. So
it's the Celtics. When they got together that one year, they won it, but then injuries and a variety of stuff, and obviously Miami raising up, they only won that one, But after that, that was it. But normally it doesn't come, and those guys were veterans too, so everybody, they were older too, so they could slip into the roles a lot easier. It wasn't such a transition, and it was a great fit. But you're right, usually, it takes a time or two.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. I don't know how much Milton is worth. I do know that everyone says he's going to get offered a lot of money. So when we get to that point in our free agency show, I'm sure the guy's going to get paid. But yeah, if I'm Milwaukee, hell yeah, I want to keep those people, because all these other teams around you might be losing people. So but honestly, going on with Toronto to what they're facing now, I think that to kind of go into the finals, I think the thing that's really going to surprise me is we've been talking about Kawhi Leonard so much, and rightfully so, because that dude put on a freaking show game after game after game, whether it was against Philly or Milwaukee. But what I'm really trying to figure out now in my head is, I don't think Kawhi can repeat what he just did in this past series, because there's going to be people defending him, making his life hell. So my biggest thing going into this finals is that who's going to actually help him? Because there's been moments for Toronto in the playoffs this year, it's literally been, well, Kawhi Leonard's doing his thing, and Siakam's nervous, and Ibaka and Gasol kind of take minutes on the bench, and neither seem to be that confident, and Kyle Lowry has these moments. So when I see that, Golden State's a 1-point underdog in the first game, it's like, from a Vegas perspective, those guys got to be wondering, or even thinking a little bit, I know Toronto's had a great year. They have a better record. They have great home court. But who the hell is going to help out Kawhi Leonard? Because if Kawhi can put on a show and beat the Warriors by himself, man, I'll do whatever. I'll do handstands on the damn podcast, put on a video. But he's going to need a lot of help, Chris, and I'm not quite sure where he's going to get it. Kawhi was able to outmuster Milwaukee with some help with his boys and people, but he ain't going to out-hustle the Dubs, because Iguodala is going to guard him, Clay is going to guard him, Draymond Green's going to guard him. Who's going to help out Toronto when need be? That's the first thing I'd be thinking about if I'm the head coach, Nick Nurse, of like, okay, if they double up Kawhi or something, who am I giving the ball to? Because who on that team is the next alpha that was going to step up? What's your thoughts on that, my friend?
Well, I do think that's obviously a good ass, question, no doubt about it. And some of this has to do with Durant too, because if Kawhi doesn't have to cover Durant, then he could cover Curry a good chunk of the time. And that's helpful, right? Because, I mean, Curry
true.
just
Yes.
freaking, he's a tall dude, and Curry, I mean, he's coming off that sweep 36, 37, 36, 37, made 26 of his team's 46 threes, more than half, played the entire second half of OT in that closeout game or second to closeout game, I can't remember. But, I think to answer your question, yeah, they're gonna need. I mean, Kyle Lowry has to be a 20-point scorer in this series. Siakam has to play like he did. If you look at the whole playoffs, he's been up and down, but he is. I'm looking at their numbers right now in the postseason this year, and he's right about 19 points and 7 boards. So, but he's been up and down and all around. You know what I mean? How effective is Gasol going to be in this game? Or in this series, I should say. Some people are even saying, hey, and this is something I like about Toronto, they are flexible. They can adjust their lineups, and they've done it a fair amount. And, maybe just put Ibaka in there right now because he does fit some of that. But Gasol can hit the three. He's just been kind of, back and forth. Obviously, Danny Green, you look at Van Fleet and Danny Green, those guys are going to have to hit almost every damn open three. You know what I mean? And Lowry's going to have to not only score, but they need him in like the 8 to 10 assist range too, Lowry. I mean, they really do. You're right, though. I mean, the drop-off after Lowry, you have Ibaka, 8 points, Gasol, 8 points, Powell, 8 points, 7 points for Green, Van Fleet, 6. These are the points during this year, or not this year, I'm sorry, but through 18 games of the postseason. That's a hell of a drop-off. You know what I mean? It's a little. I'm sure there's a drop-off for Golden State, but those three compared to the other three is a whole different ball game when you're talking about, where they're at and their stats. In fact, just for the hell of it, I might as well, since we're here, do the exact same thing because they have it all locked up. And sure, I know there's going to be a major drop-off, but Thompson is sitting there at 19. No one was averaging 19 for them. And then you had Durant. It's kind of weird. Durant's up at 34 for the postseason. Jesus Christ, that's right. I forgot about that. And then Curry's at 27, Green's at 13, Iguodala's at 10. Like, it's not even that much of a drop off, really. I don't know, man. I mean, they're gonna have to play. I don't know. I guess I answered the question to an extent, but to add to what I was saying, I think it has to do with Durant too, because if they can not have Durant, that does help because now he doesn't have to chase Durant around. Now, it sucks chasing Curry around, but that's a much harder matchup for Curry. Now, like you said, Iguodala, Durant would be there. Iguodala for Leonard. We know he can lock it down. And them sweeping is major for that calf for Iguodala because I was a little worried about him. I mean, not really worried about him like you would be, but, I was wondering, but when they've had this, extra time now, that's got to help them. But game one, no Durant. I guess we know that. Toronto has to win game one. And hopefully this is not the same Toronto team that used to lose a bunch of game ones at home. This is not the same Toronto team the way it's built and their star player. But honestly, we're going to need either – and not even that, but this game one, just to focus on this game one, and obviously these two games are the series, in my opinion. You have to win one of these. You have to, and why not win the first one? You know what I mean? Why not, So
sure.
I really think it comes down to winning one of these or else it's over. And they're going to have to be so just They're going to have to spread the ball. That's another thing we talked about. What were the teams not doing that lost on offense? Remember when we broke down the last four, all the semifinals? And if you looked at it, it was like they didn't move the ball. Well, I'd say Milwaukee moved the ball, but they just missed so many. I don't know. I think that they got three-point shooters, and they have mid-range guys, and they have Kawhi. And by the way, the mid-range and all the analytic stuff, we've been really throwing that shit out in the playoffs, haven't we? We've seen more and more mid-range shots, or just get the best shot. But I'm long-winded like normal, but I think no Durant actually helps them a lot only because of Kawhi. And to have Durant and to have Iguodala is a nice combo. Durant's lengthy as hell, so he's going to help you out there. But how much effect, just to throw it back to you, how much effect will Durant coming back, in Boogie coming back, slow the flow? One, and two, can they get meaningful minutes, Toronto, out of their two bigs who are quality players? We know they're two bigs, Ibaka and Gasol, but we know that, the Golden State's known to take the centers out of Houston, it felt like they waited till October to sign their big, and he was barely in the damn lineup at times against Golden State.
Yeah, that's something they've done since they kind of went on this little run of centers almost become irrelevant because they can't keep up with the tempo, or they're just taking advantage of massively on pick and rolls, and that's something Kerr's always kind of loved. It's like, okay, here goes my death lineup with like Dre and Iguodala, and it's like, all right, well, center has to go to the bench. And speaking of the bench, and I'll get to your points of what you just said, but this is the other thing I was going to mention is Kawhi basically played it seemed like he played all game 6 and all game 7. And what's it going to be like when the Kawhi's off the court Toronto team? If he did take I think he probably took 4 minutes off of Game 7, and I believe one was at the end of the third quarter and one was at this mid-second, I think maybe. And if he does have to chase around Curry and have Clay and Iguodala and all those guys on him, he's going to wear down. I wonder what the hell is Toronto's plan when he's off the court. And there's so much pressure on him. But so the Nick Nurse again is going to come up.
They can use Drake for a Band-Aid.
Jesus, yeah, that guy's something else. So obviously the cycling of players is going to be interesting. I listened to there's a Memphis guy I listened to for a podcast, and I just he's a Grizzlies guy. And they made a good point about him, Gasol. It's they were saying it pretty much feels like ever since Gasol left Memphis and went to Toronto, he's just happy being a guy that's the third or fourth best player on the team, and maybe got a little fed up with being the number one guy out there with Conley. And I think that's kind of showing because, man, there were games where Gasol could easily do 20 and 10 on a given night for Memphis, and he'd be a top player in the league. And it's he's kind of just taking the role in Toronto of being dude, there's Lowry, there's Ibaka, there's, Kawhi. I'm just going to kind of chill here. And I'm not saying the guy's throwing in the towel and doesn't give a shit, but when they made that point about how he's happy being content being the third wheel, the way he's kind of played kind of looks like it. Because, there were moments, like you said, where Gasol could bust a three and drive to the hoop or, hit that little run in the lane, get his and one all the time. And you haven't seen that from him. And I think if you're Toronto, you got to have a little flashback. Dude, remember your Memphis days? We need that from you now. We need you to give us your 20 and 10 Memphis time. So Lowry and Kawhi can do the same thing. We can be, that's a must. And him and Ibaka have kind of been taking turns. If you're Toronto, Ibaka and Gasol got to be, on the court doing all they can. and and trying to make Draymond's life miserable. We're trying to get Draymond in foul trouble. But yeah, that old school Gasol needs to come out immediately. I mean, and then with the bigs, that's the one thing we talked about so much as Golden State does is they've mastered the pick and roll with Draymond and Steph. So if Gasol is on the court, he has the speed to cover the pick and rolls, and that's been the one big issue. So when you mention bigs, I mean, granted, Gasol and Ibaka move pretty good for bigs. How are they going to handle the pick and rolls? What's the plan going to be there? And to kind of wrap around this thing, as you mentioned, your first main point was Kawhi having an easier time without Durant. That's 100% true. I didn't even think about that because it feels like Durant's been out now for like a month or so. It's weird how NBA playoffs kind of drag on. But that is, you're right, Chris, that's a massive advantage because obviously Curry is not going to drop 36 points on Kawhi. Kawhi is an incredible defender, so he will make Curry's life hell. And then you're going to have to rely more so on Clay or Draymond, or kind of playing more as a team and not letting Curry hit 6 or 7 threes, because that won't happen against Kawhi, or I don't think it would that easily. So that is a huge advantage. This was a couple of days ago, but I've still heard Durant has not done any physical, on the court work with teammates. I mean,
well, dude, if they already know it's Tuesday, and I heard this yesterday, they already knew he was out for a Thursday game. That's weird,
Yeah, I think he's maybe hoping to come back in Game 3 or Game 4. I don't see him playing in Toronto. I mean, if you haven't done any on-court work yet, you'd assume not. Now, I will say it is kind of crazy with NBA Finals because we didn't have many extra days off in the first 3 rounds this year, but I mean, the finals start Thursday, and then you have a game Sunday. And I think you go Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday, Friday. It's like, holy shit, the first 4 games are going to take 10 days. It's like, man, that's kind of a blessing in the sky for Golden State with Boogie and Durant. I mean, unfortunately for Toronto, but yeah, that's such a long gap. But yeah, to kind of sum all those points up, man, it's like Kawhi is going to need tons of help. Obviously, with Durant out for games 1, I would bet game 2 that'll be a massive help. And to mention Boogie, my guy, I've always loved him. I hope he does get on the court. I do think that he'll obviously help out that second group. I mean, I've been extremely over-the-top nitpicky for this team I love, talking about how their bench isn't good as it was. And yeah, it's true, but again, you're bitching about quite a bit when you're complaining about your team who has a rough bench. But obviously a guy like Cousins is a veteran, and, it's then a guy like, McKinney or Drepko or Bell or whatever. Like, those guys are not exactly, premier basketball players. If you throw a guy like Boogie, all of a sudden it's like, holy shit. Now we're talking about how Toronto has no bench without Kawhi, and Golden State adds an all-star back to their bench. It's like, uh-oh. So, I don't know. I don't see Toronto's got massive trouble. Obviously, I will say, though, I've been down them quite a bit. They are a very good defensive team. And we have seen it, Chris, where there's been games where Golden State they'll have one of those nights where they're like 4 of 23 from 3. And Clay is cold and Curry's cold. I do think they present this is the best defensive team that Golden State's played in the playoffs all year. Clippers was a track meet, and they kind of turned out when they wanted to. Houston kind of plays the same fast tempo.
I know I've said this so many times in the last month, but how the fuck did they win 2 games? I'm sorry, go ahead. No, you're right. It's true. This is the best defensive, hands down.
Yeah. So, so they're gonna make them earn it, and without Durant again, So I don't know. I think maybe build a little bit of a lower scoring game. Golden State maybe on the road first couple games of Toronto will be able to run up and down like they like to do, especially if Kawhi's on Curry. Maybe you'd expect bigger games out of Draymond and Clay. Yeah, that's a massive advantage. The bench itself, because normally I remember we've always talked about so much about how the benches match up, and it's always kind of been a fun debate for us doing our NBA Finals preview show. And this year it's not quite as much of one. And now you add a Boogie, who he's been questionable all week. He's probably going to be on the court game 1, for sure game 2.
Right.
That's another disadvantage. Obviously, the coaching matchup, Kerr's got him beat there too. I don't know. I don't know. I'm struggling to find positives for Toronto because Kawhi can be Superman and do his own thing, and I'm not sure if that's even going to be enough without a bunch of like two more superheroes with him.
Right, and we've seen LeBron in the finals 2 back-to-back years have the most points, the most rebounds, the most steals, the most assists, the most blocks out of both teams, and they still lose.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? However, they do have Dre.
Look around you. Look at this. We created this. This didn't exist before we were here. Look around at the square. I promise you right now, we did this. Doesn't matter what anybody says. They can say it's disrespectful. They can say it's this and that. Everybody's within the rules. Everybody's doing their thing. All we are is proud and passionate. We are like a college sports team. The Toronto Raptors are a college sports team. I promise you. I love Toronto. I love this team, and we're going to the NBA Finals.
There we go. They got Drizzy. All right, I just had to play that clip. However, all right, so the time has come. Is this – oh, real quick. I saw a lot of people in this ESPN so they have the last 10 games. You know how you line it up when you go to ESPN and kind of like when we break down college football? So I've seen people say this on Twitter. So it's basically like the last 10 games. Obviously, Golden State's on a 6-game winning streak, and Toronto's on a 4, 8-2, 7-3. Now you look at points, 117, basically 118 to 114. Golden State's ahead. Golden State gave up 110 compared to 99, right? And you go down a couple other stats, they're pretty even. But a lot of people were stuck on that. That's 10 more. That's 10 more points that they're giving up. And I hear that. I actually saw this on Twitter. And I hear what they're saying, but, dude, like, they're coming off playing Houston before. Like, that's the Houston series. And last I checked, Houston can score some fucking points. So, and same with Portland. So that shit, that was so stupid. It's like, they're not a 10-point better team than them defensively if you're lining up, head to head.
Yeah.
I disagree with it. You know what I mean? I think that was a little stretch, but I wanted to put that on there because I don't know if people have seen that on Twitter, but people are like, look at this. Someone actually like screenshotted it. I'm like, dude, Houston is a point freaking like, come on, dude. Like it's just silly. But anyway, now they do have a triple overtime game in there, so that's pretty freaking. That part's good. But other than that, let's just get to the freaking nitty gritty. We could have started this at the beginning of the fucking show, to be honest with you. Is it a sweep? Is it Game 5? Is it Game 6 in Golden State? Or do we miraculously have a 7-game series here, sir?
I was bored today because we're at the point where it was watch movies today in class and let the kids chill. So I looked up the good old ESPN analyst picks, and ESPN BPI, Chris, our go-to system I effing hate with all my heart for our college football show. They had it like as a 5% chance at Golden State sweeps. And in Vegas, I think you can get it for plus 550, and it's like a 42% chance Golden State wins in 6. I'm going to go against the BPI. I think Golden State sweeps. I think with a team that normally, I think they normally always have the home court advantage, and so instead of normally you win the first couple of games and you go on the road for Game 3, which is crazy, which is always like the LeBron Game 3 in Cleveland where Durant would do his thing or something. There's always kind of like you're flipping the script now. And again, this is a Golden State team who I think has a record of has won like 20 games on their away team's court in 20 series in a row. They've won an away victory. So the road doesn't scare them at all. And as we mentioned, all the points of this game, I think they get I think they get the games done in Toronto. I think they just walk into home and they can celebrate a home championship. I think it's a 4-game sweep. I would bet 4-game sweep, and I think if they win in 5, it's like plus 300. So if you're a gambling person, you think Golden State's going to take care of business like me, I'd bet the sweep and bet they win in 5. I just don't see, as special as Kawhi is, I don't see how they get it done, because one man can't do it all. Because sadly, he's not LeBron. He doesn't have a sidekick like Kyrie or Love to help him out like they did that one year. So I'm going Golden State in 4. What about you?
Well, you said, he's not LeBron, so he can't get it done. But getting it done is one fucking game, okay? So he can get that done. That's one game.
That's fair.
One game.
That is true.
Okay? So I'm going to say, God, I want to go, just to spite you, I want to go Game 6 and say Golden State gets it at home. And, that would actually be nice for them to get it in 6, because I'd be right. And 2, because, to have that last celebration on their home court, I didn't think about that. It'd be kind of nice to be at home and have that last in that arena.
True.
To have that last celebration until they, disown the city and leave the city and, hurt the economy. But that's, neither here or there. I just don't know if I can go 6, dude. You know what? The Clippers did it. No, I'm going to go 5. Should I go 6? I mean, who gives a shit? They're going to win one game. You know what? I think that they can win one of the first games. So does that mean they can win Game 5? And I don't know, 5 or 6. What am I? What do I know? I'm going 5. They'll win it in Toronto, and it'll be nice to see Drake's face. So yeah, I actually would prefer that. I prefer that better. Them doing it right there for Drake to see in the home crowd. So yeah, I'm going 5. I think they'll win a game. I wouldn't be shocked because they got the home court. If they could win Game 1, well, if they win Game 1, I think it goes to Game 6 for sure then. But yeah,
Sure.
I'll go 5.
Sure.
I'll go 5. God, we're sitting there. I'm like stretching this out. But yeah, okay. All right. Well, that about wraps it up, sir. Why don't you get us the hell on out of here?
Yeah, the only thing I'd love to
We will
see
be
is
back, by the way. We will be back. We're definitely going to do a show probably on a Monday, next Monday or something like that. So we're not done. In fact, we're going to go all the way through the finals. We're going to go all the way we're going to have a draft show, and then we're going to have a free agency show in August, because it'll be all July before anybody decides where they're going to go, because there's 1,700 players going to only 28 teams.
And Penny Hardaway is going to have about 4 of them going to Memphis. The only thing I want to see is Draymond do like his double bicep flex he likes to do right in front of Drake. Drake was giving shit to Antetokounmpo.
Yeah.
If you talk shit to Boogie or Draymond, those boys are going to say something back. I don't want to see. That'd be the kicker. That'd be watch Draymond get suspended from the series.
I do
for
want to
shoving
see that.
Drake.
I want to see him push Drake, like up 3 games to nothing, and be like, man, fuck this dude. I don't care. They don't need me for this game. I'm going after Drake. I mean, Drake's giving massages on the sidelines and shit.
I'd love to see Boogie or Draymond just shove Drake. That'd be pretty funny. I wouldn't mind that at all. Yeah. So as Chris said, we'll be back. Probably after the first 2 games with as far as it's laid out, with how it goes. Yeah, because it's Thursday, Sunday, so we'll be reporting after Game 2. Hopefully, it's a 2-0 series lead, especially if I lay some money down on the sweep. Which 5. I don't care what ESPN BPI says. A 4% chance of the sweep. Sometimes it's better to watch it with your own eyes than punch numbers in the computer.
Keep talking.
So we'll be rolling out of here. I can't wait to talk trap about Drake. And thanks as always for listening.
All right, we're out of here.
All right, the boys are out.
We're gonna get a copyright. We gotta stop this. We'll be back. Peace.